Hello guys, thank you for watching. Coach Cooper here, back with another video. I'm going to be breaking down the Final Four matchup between the Virginia Cavaliers and the Auburn Tigers. Virginia, coming out of the South region, they beat Gardner-Webb, Oklahoma, Oregon, and Purdue. And that Purdue game was unbelievable. Overtime game in Louisville, Kentucky, very close to my hometown. It's hard to call it the best game of the tournament because there's been a lot of great games, but that's got to be top 2 or 3 games of the tournament right there. Then you got Auburn coming out of the Midwest. They beat New Mexico State by 1. Pretty big scare for them in that game. Then they went on to beat Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky. Now, I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's got to be 3 of the biggest wins for Auburn to have in their program history. To beat Kansas, UNC, and UK back to back to back. 3 blue blood programs. That's pretty unbelievable run for Bruce Pearl and his team. Today I'm gonna break down a little bit of X's and O's. I'm gonna throw some stats at you, and I'm gonna give a prediction as well. I just want to throw some first stats out there for Auburn, and they're averaging 80 points a game. They're giving up 76 points a game. They're shooting 45% from the field. They've won 12 games in a row. I think that's really unbelievable, coming out of the SEC as strong as it was this year. And then also, I just told you about the run they've had in the tournament. They're coming in as confident as ever, winning 12 games in a row. A stat that I really think is big regarding this game against Virginia is their 9 steals per game. I think I'll get into that a little bit later. Now that 80 points per game, I don't really like that number. I look at their last 5 to 6 games because I think the season really breaks down into sections. So that 80 points a game, that's taken into account games in November, December, and obviously, they're a different team now than they were then. In their last 5, they're averaging 85 points a game, and they're giving up 73. So both improvements there, offensively and defensively. They also averaging 71 possessions a game. And, that might not be that important of a stat, you might not think, but I think it is important when you're playing Virginia. That game's going to be really won and lost by who can dictate the pace of the game. I think we know how Virginia's going to play, and we know how Auburn wants to play. It's going to be a question of, can they overcome that deliberate style of Virginia. Now for Virginia, on the year, they have scored 71 points a game, and they've given up 58 points a game, shooting 47% from the field, and they've won their last 4. They were beaten by Florida State in the ACC tournament, but through the tournament, they survived a scare, I would say, against Gardner-Webb. Even though the score they ended up winning by 15. I think that was big for them to get through that game with a little adversity there in the first half, and then beating the Oklahoma team and really beating a resilient Oregon team. That game was a lot closer than I think people understand. That game was a really, really good basketball game. And Oregon coming in that game was really hot. They had just won the Pac-12 tournament, and they had made their NCAA run, and they held those guys to 49 points. So that's really impressive there. And then to be able to overcome the onslaught that Carson Edwards put on, in that Elite Eight game was just unreal. That guy was unconscious. Definitely one of the best performances that I've seen. Not just in that game, throughout the NCAA tournament. That was devastating for Purdue, obviously, to play that well. That was pretty much a home game for Purdue, in my opinion. They had a great representation there at the KFC Yum Center in Louisville. But Virginia, they were able to make a few more plays there at the end, obviously catching the big break at the end of regulation with the missed free throw, and then getting that shot at the buzzer to send it to overtime. That was big. Now, Virginia's possessions per game, which is last in Division I basketball, is 63 possessions per game. I really think that that's going to be the difference going forward against this game, against Auburn, just the contrast in styles. And I'll break down a little bit later why I think that's really going to come into play. Right now, I want to show you some sets from my fellow Fast Model Sports contributors. First, we'll start with Auburn, their cross swing action. This is from Michael Lynch. This is not my diagram. These next three that I'm going to show you are not mine. I want to give full credit to Michael Lynch for these first two I'm going to show you from Auburn. You can follow him on Twitter, and I'll put it in the description. Follow him on Twitter at LEIC Basketball. You could also probably type in Michael Lynch, and his name would pop up, but that's LEIC Basketball. I'm sure that's an abbreviation, but I don't want to pronounce it wrong. So that's LEIC Basketball on Twitter. Definitely follow him. He puts out a newsletter every week. He's got an excellent program, and he's an excellent follow on Twitter. You can look him up at fastmodelsports.com as well for great content. In this action right here from Auburn, it starts with a dribble handoff. Jared Harper will hand it off, and then it gets to a quick reversal after the handoff to 4. After the handoff, 1 and 3 are going to cross here. 5 setting that flex screen, but he's really just trying to get a piece. He's not really screening. He's just more of like trying to get in the way. They're trying to get this ball quickly reversed to 4, and then they're going to hit 1 on what I call like a through action. You see that in the NBA a lot. You see it from Chris Mack a lot. At least that's who I've seen it from the most in college basketball. And then you just got this clear out ball screen. 2 and 3 will exchange. That's a huge if you plan on putting this in with your team, do not leave out the exchange. Most people think, why is that important? That is so important. That occupies that help defense. They're unable to sit down in this gap. You could say, well, that's just an easy switch. Even that little hesitation to have to tell your teammate to switch is enough to create that double gap and create that driving lane. So that's a key part of this set that you can't leave out is the backside exchange between 2 and 3. After 4's reversal, he's going to run right into a ball screen, and 5 is going to clear to the short corner. And like it says right there, again, this is from Michael Lynch. This is not from me. That's a great stuff right there. 2 and 3 exchange, backside to occupy the help. That's big. 1 is going to turn that corner, and he's going to attack that gap. Now, it's going to be interesting to see a lot of the stuff that Auburn does. They're attacking gaps. They're attacking the rim. They're trying to get drive and kick threes. Will that be effective against Virginia? In my opinion, that is the only way to beat them is to be able to knock down perimeter shots. And I don't think Auburn has that post presence to get them to double with consistency. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Auburn's able to get downhill and, get Virginia in some scramble situations where they have to overhelp and get some drive and kick 3 looks. Next one we'll look at, this is again from Michael Lynch. Follow him on Twitter. Paris clear. As soon as Jared Harper crosses half court right there, you're going to see this flex screen set for 3, and 2's going to make this loop cut off of 4. And, obviously putting it in this system right here, you have to have 2 clips, but this is all happening simultaneously. This is happening, all this action is happening as he's about to cross half court. As he gets into his drive, 2's going to set the, kind of a down screen for 5, but it's basically just a clear out. He's going to down screen right here and get out. And 5 with timing right here is going to make like an odd looking blur cut to open up that double gap for him to drive into. That's an excellent quick hitter from Bruce Pearl right there. I definitely like that action a lot for a guy that can get downhill. Again, that is going to be a straight line. I mean, Virginia's not going to guard out. I just don't know. I don't know if that's going to work on Virginia. We'll see. That's a compelling. That's why we watch the game, right? It's hard to say for sure. I've watched Virginia a lot in the ACC for the last 5-6 years. I've watched a lot of their games, and I just don't see them get beat. I don't see them get beat right there on this action a lot. I'm not in any way downgrading this action. I like it, definitely. I've got some guys that I coach at the middle school level and the high school level that can really drive the basketball, and that's something. I mean, that's an action right there. A lot of false action that I like. I'm not downgrading the set. All I'm saying is against a team that's so disciplined, so high caliber on the ball, I'm just not sure that's going to be effective against them, but I guess we will see. We're only going to go to one thing and one thing only on Virginia, and that's mover blocker. Now, I know a lot of you that are watching this are probably thinking, well, what about their ball screen stuff that they've put in? You're correct. Virginia has put in some ball screen actions to kind of mask their mover blocker. But I'm just not going to get into it because they average 63 possessions a game, and 56 of them are going to be mover blocker in some fashion. And this is their lane wide action. This diagram right here is brought to you by Radius Athletics, aka Randy Sherman. Excellent follow on Twitter. Unbelievable content on Twitter, on YouTube. I'm not sure what his YouTube is. I think it may be Radius Athletics. Look that up. Definitely follow him on Twitter at Radius Athletics. Look him up on Fast Model Sports as well. I'll have that at name in the description as well. He's a great follow. I would say if you're watching this video, you know what mover blocker is. Became famous from Dick Bennett, Tony Bennett's father. Tony has done a great job of expanding it and throwing in a lot of wrinkles. I'm not even going to attempt to get into those in this video right here. But this is the basic alignment for the mover blocker. It starts exactly like lane to lane or wide screener. The blockers are obviously 4 and 5. 4, he's the wide blocker. He can set screens anywhere within that shaded area. Again, I don't want to act like I'm taking credit for this diagram right here. This is from Radius Athletics. This is not from me. I'm just simply using it in this video because he does a great job right here. Coach Randy Sherman, Radius Athletics on Twitter. But 4 is the wide blocker. He can screen anywhere within the shaded area to your left in that first diagram. And then you got 5. He's the lane screener, aka blocker. He follows the rule of screening only lane line on his half of the floor. So in this first one, you can see 4 and 5 are split, and their areas are on their respective side of that line right there. Now, once 4 sets this back screen here, he's then the wide blocker. He is free, to set a screen from the midline to the sideline on his half of the court on that. So he, a lot of times they will rescreen this down screen here. 3 will come off the back screen, and then he'll immediately come back off the curl. Sometimes he'll go all the way off the double. They do a lot of different stuff out of that, obviously. And then once it gets into the flow and that first reversal, some of the possible actions, as you can see right here, off the down screen, he doesn't curl, he kind of straight cuts to the perimeter. 3 gets a catch, and 1 will immediately come off the flare. As 2, he's making his way through, and he's going to be the next guy in line to come off the down screen. They got this action right here, the quick reversal of 3, and immediately he's taking 1 or 2 bounces and they hit Kyle Guy against Purdue quite a bit off of that flare. Simple but effective action. Let's say that flare is not there. 3 is going to continue his dribble, and 1 is he's going to cut his cut off and then come off this down screen. He can tight curl, or he can curl into the elbow area or even the 3-point area. As that's happening, obviously 2 is cleaning it up coming off the down screen. Okay, one more action. I'm not going to go through all of them. Well, I guess I am going to go through all of them. That's the last one. After 2 comes off a back screen, 4 can pop for that catch there. He can pop, and then you got 1 coming off the flare, and you got 2 and 3 crossing, cleaning that up. Another possibility is that wide flare you see right here between 4 and 3. Again, it's kind of like a swing action. You see Wisconsin run a lot off this flare. 4 is going to pop for a catch, and 1 is coming off the flare. And like you've seen, if he's not open on the flare, he can continue his cut, and 5 will rescreen there. Okay, I got into that a little more than what I wanted to. I hope I didn't bore some of you guys with that. But those are 3 sets. Well, not a set. That's what Virginia's going to do. Their mover blocker 99% of the time, 95% of the time. And then 2 ISO clearouts from Auburn. And there's also a baseline out of bounds there. I'm not going to get into that. So I went a little bit more into that than what I wanted to. But I love X's and O's, and I get immersed sometimes in that. So really a tale of 2 different teams. One team averaging 85 points a game. One team giving up 58 points a game. Something's got to give right there. It's almost a third. That's a 27-point difference. So something's going to have to give. It's so hard to predict, in my opinion, these games at this time in the year. But my prediction for this game, I'm going to go with Virginia. I think their defense is really going to cause Auburn some issues. And not only their defense, it's just, when has Auburn been in a situation where they're playing a team that's so deliberate? Like if they get down 6 to 8 points against Virginia, how are they going to react when they miss a shot or they turn it over? And in the back of your head, you're thinking, man, I'm going to have to guard, for 25 seconds now. I'm going to have to get down and guard all this stuff, for another 25 seconds at least. That starts to creep into the back of your mind when you're on offense. And then you're starting to want to work for a great shot, and it's just not coming because Virginia's guarding their butts off. And then before you know it, you're into a, slow-paced, gritty, break them down type of game with Virginia. And I just think that's what's going to happen. I think Auburn is not going to be accustomed to playing at that pace. And I just think that as you get deeper into the second half, Virginia's style is just going to overwhelm them. One stat that I'll put out for Auburn, and that's, I told you in the beginning of the video I'd come back to, is that 9 steals per game. We don't see Virginia turn it over a lot, but that 9 steals per game, if Auburn can turn those into points, if Auburn can get 4 to 8 points off of steals and break out layups or dunks, that could be the difference in the game, because you're only going to get so many possessions against Virginia. And if they could get some easy buckets off of those steals, that could be that could be a big difference in the game. So that's something to watch out for if Auburn is able to turn Virginia over a few times. I do expect Auburn to try to, ball pressure Ty Jerome and Kyle Guy quite a bit. I just don't see it. I don't see Virginia breaking down in this game. I'm definitely going to go with Virginia in this game, but I've been wrong before, as my bracket shows, and it's definitely going to be an exciting matchup to watch. So That's going to do it for this video. In the next video, obviously, I'm going to break down the matchup between Michigan State and Texas Tech, two coaches that I respect a heck of a whole lot. So I look forward to breaking that down. I definitely look forward to that game. If you like what you saw, guys, consider giving me a like. Consider subscribing to the channel. And look out for content that I may have on Fast Model Sports. Follow me on Twitter at CoachCoop20. And we'll see you in the next video, guys.